Hello and welcome to another episode of the Paperstac Podcast. I am Brett Burky. This is Rick Allen, and we are here to do another amazing episode about the note space.
Yes, that's it.
Fun stuff.
Dropping knowledge bombs for you. And this one today is more about using the platform efficiently.
Oh, okay.
Because you handle a lot of customer support, I handle some stuff in Escrow, and I see stuff come through that's like, I see deals that get into closing, get funded, and then it falls out of closing. And I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Why does this happen? And so we're always looking like, well, what can we do to help our users out, to educate them on, look, as a buyer, what can you do to make sure that your offers are getting accepted, they're more efficient, but then they're also moving forward to closing. It is, because you're wasting time otherwise if you're just in there bidding.
Well, not only that, I mean,
you don't know what you're doing and looking at the right due diligence documents, something will pop up at the end.
yeah, and sometimes if you get to the part where you set money to escrow, there's a cost for us for wires, all this stuff like that. So, by the times if it's a buyer's, they messed up and didn't do something, we'll keep the escrow fee because that's what the escrow's for.
Yeah, the escrow is
the
there.
option you can't lose $250.
Yeah, well, it's there for the insurance policy, right?
Basically, yeah.
It's there. It's like, hey, something popped up at the end. You're not sending your money directly to the seller. Try to get that back. It's like an insurance policy. It's sitting there. So, really, the first thing on the list is do your advanced due diligence up front. Right? That basically comes down to analyzing the asset, looking at the collateral files, payment history, the underlying value on the loan or on the house. What is the securing asset? What is that worth? And reviewing servicing notes.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that'd be very thorough. People don't do that.
No, you definitely want to look at the collateral and make sure that who you're buying it from is the last assignment that they're recorded.
Right.
Make sure that there's a note, mortgage, whatever you're buying, make sure that collateral is there. And then also you want to follow it up with asking them, hey, do you have the original note? Right? Because that's one where we've had it recently, a couple of them have popped up where the note was destroyed or they don't have the note, they have a copy of the note, or that, they had to go back and to fix it, they had to go back and get a new note signed by the borrowers, which can be done, but it helps to know that stuff up front, right? So ask those questions and then review the payment history. Like you should always, if you're buying a performing loan, I want to see payment history for the past 24, 36, as much as you can really get, but definitely the last, 12 to 24 months.
Right. It's always good to even ask for payment history while you're in the closing, because someone might have changed if it's been a month.
Oh yeah, you can do that. You just say, I want to see the updated payment history prior to closing, because if something happens, they don't make a payment.
Yeah, because prior to signing the disbursement agreement, you should probably ask for the payment history. Because after that, everything's pretty much done. The seller can sign the assignment, allonge all saying, hey, boom, you're done. But your last, thing you can hold up is, hey, I haven't signed, is the disbursement agreement.
And the follow-up on that is the servicing notes. You should always ask for the servicing notes, because anything that might not be disclosed up front, and it might not be their fault, but the seller might not be telling you everything, you can get the full story from the servicing notes. So between the servicing notes and the payment history, you can kind of put together the story and understand what's going on. And then finally look at the value of the underlying asset. So that way when you go to order a BPO, you have a good idea of what it comes back in, and now you're having somebody lay eyes on it and can kind of back up what it is.
Right, that sounds good.
Yeah. The next thing is going to be pay attention to the seller's comments. Pay attention to what they write on there in their listing description. Pay attention to the interaction back and forth with the seller, and try to understand, like, look, what's their motivations here? Where are they? Do they need to sell this now? Do they not want to sell this now? Has this been a headache for them? Has it not been a headache for them? Why are they selling? Are they converting all their notes to cash because they're in their later stages of their life and they want to make their estate easy for their kids to chop up? Just kind of try to get that. If you understand why they're selling it, maybe understand the terms they're looking for, it'll help you craft an offer that works for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. Works for both too. I was going to add another little tidbit thing with the servicing notes. A lot of times, I know those are usually on spreadsheets, right?
They can be on spreadsheets. They can be on PDFs.
I mean, nowadays, if you're watching this video and you have ChatGPT, you can feed that. I mean, we will have that on the new Paperstac, but you can feed that, hey, analyze these documents and tell me if you see anything that looks like a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next thing, number 2, let's make a realistic offer. When it comes to actually making the offer, you don't want to go in just lowballing somebody. Also, when you're making an offer or you're reaching out to a seller, under no circumstances should you be going to a seller and saying, here, fill out this intake form and I'll get you an offer. And that comes from a lot of people who are paying $199 for a course that's not really teaching them anything. It's just somebody saying, here, you pay me $199. I'll tell you the bare minimum of what to do, then go find me notes and bring them to me and I'll buy them. So you don't want to do that. As a matter of fact, if we see that on the platform, we'll actually freeze your account because that's not the experience that our sellers are looking for. It's certainly not the platform that we're trying to put out there. So usually all the data, so it's on those intake forms, it's all listed under there on one of the tabs. It's under the assets tab. You can go in there, see the origination date, see the sale amount, see the original principal balance, the current principal balance, the last payment date, all that stuff. It's all provided. So when you're putting together your offer, take all that into consideration and don't give the seller more work to do because they're probably going to skip over your offer and move on to somebody else. When you do put together your offer, go ahead and explain it, right? Based on my what I've found in due diligence or based on my target metric for my fund or based on the yield that I'm trying to get, here's my offer. Everybody wants to get a good deal. You may see something that's got a price listed by the seller and that price works for you. If you want to try to negotiate on it, great. But understand that there's other people bidding on it. So if you can explain your offer, provide more details to the seller, it helps out. It lets them know that you helps them know you're a real buyer. And obviously when make sure your offers, make sure the maths out. Don't put in an offer saying I'm trying to get 18%, and when you do the math on it, it's like, well, this is a 26% yield you're going for, because then you lose credibility. So make sure you're using the tool, whether it's a 10 BII or some spreadsheet you have. Just make sure your math works out and that you sound like you know what you're talking about. And then when you're talking, this kind of leads into the next one. When you're explaining your offer or you're running your preliminary due diligence, you're build a rapport with the seller. Talk to them. Ask them questions. Use the phone call feature. Jump on the phone. But if you can build a rapport to them, you're asking questions. You're not just saying, can you send me these documents? Hey, I'm going through these documents and I found this. Any idea what this is? Can you explain this? It lets them know that those are really buying questions, and the seller is more likely to put in a little bit more effort with you than somebody who's just, here, fill out this document. Also, be responsive. Like, keep the deal moving.
Yeah.
If 5 days goes in between comments, time kills all deals, right? If I'm a seller, I'm looking for somebody who's motivated. Nothing says motivated like we're back and forth on the platform. And I know you have jobs. Let them know that. That's part of the transparency, right? Hey, I also have a day job, so if I don't get back to you, I'll try to check it at lunch and then once in the morning and once at night. So if you keep the communication flowing, it definitely increases your chances of a deal happening. And just because it keeps things moving along. And it keeps you ahead of other people who aren't doing that on the platform. Be flexible, right? If the seller's got a price and that would work for you, but then maybe you offer $4,000 or $5,000 less and they counter you meeting some in the middle, be willing to be flexible on not just price, maybe it's terms, Maybe it's hey, let them know, look, I'll have all my due diligence done. All I'll be pending is a BPO and an O&E. If everything checks out, then I'm ready to close. I'll close as quickly as possible.
Right.
So you want to make sure that you're doing that. You're willing to be flexible, and you really want to streamline the process as much as possible. When you're working with sellers, have your funds available.
Oh, that's important.
That is hugely important. And if you're buying with an IRA,
Make sure they send the whole payment.
make sure they send the whole payment, but also make sure that you let the seller know, hey, listen, I'm buying with my IRA. It may take a little bit of time for them to send out funds. IRAs are it's not like you turn in a sheet of paper and funds go out within an hour. It's not like going to your bank and just sending a wire. It does take some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then also too, if you're doing it from there, make sure you get your vesting correct, because I think it's worse than being all the way in closing and having to redo documents because you didn't vest it.
That's a great point. Go to your IRA custodian.
How should I write this in?
How exactly do you want to take title? Also, part of that, if you're working with an IRA, understand their requirements. because they do have requirements saying, look, I'm going to need this, this, and this. Or they'll have a list of documents or a list of steps that you're going to need to take. If you understand those up front, you can let the seller know, hey, I'm going to work with my IRA. They're asking for these things. I'm getting through them and knock them out as soon as possible.
Right.
It'll improve the efficiency. Also, understand the Paperstac workflow. Like, understand what happens when on the to-do lists. It walks you through everything. If you have an open to-do item, knock it out as soon as possible. That's very important.
Yeah, especially if something's been held up. The one that gets held up the most for buyers is the closing data. As some of the seller will enter in the closing data, which is either they're taking it, they're using our AI to have it scan their last documents, or they're manually entering this stuff in. And so it's good for you to review that, because sometimes maybe the seller entered it in and didn't put the right borrower's name.
Correct.
And you don't want to get down the line and, go to record it, and you find out they used Joe and Jan when it's Joseph and Janet. That's kind of a big deal. You have to go back to the seller. And so we put that there because that happens.
Yeah, it's the seller's responsibility to enter in the closing data, but it's the buyer's responsibility to go through and look and verify, make sure the address is right, the APN, that kind of stuff. It helps increase the probability of the deal closing, and certainly it increases the efficiency on which it'll close. It'll close much quicker. Another thing you can do, use escrow. 90% of the transactions on the platform use escrow. I've had people come back and say, hey, there's issues with this. I go, okay, well, you didn't use escrow. You closed outside the platform. I can't do anything to help you.
Right.
Once you move off the platform, we're not party to it. You've paid your fees. You go, you close outside. There's nothing. I don't know what happened once you left the platform, so there's nothing we can do to assist in corrective documents or anything like that. So use escrow. There's a cost there, but it adds efficiency to the actual transaction.
Adds efficiency on the seller side too, because I'm not saying, sellers would do this, but if they get their money, they're not really in a real big rush anymore. But
what he's saying is it keeps sellers to like, hey, look, I'm not getting my money until we get these things corrected.
Right.
And so
they're actively working things. They need to get the cash.
Prioritize communication. That's a big one, right? Make sure you're communicating. If you have questions asked to you, answer them. If you need something, go ahead and fire back. Like, it kind of ties back in, but keep the transaction flowing. If there's something requested from you, like a proof of funds, get it as soon as possible. It's great. We saw one the other day where somebody requested proof of funds. They had proof of funds to them within 20 minutes. So like, no problem, here it is. That kept the deal moving. It lets things go.
Let's see that.
Let them know when you're ordering due diligence. A lot of times, the way transactions flow on the platform is people will do their armchair due diligence. They'll review the documents, they'll review the payment history, or they'll have somebody in their firm do it, review the payment history, everything like that. It all looks good. The documents check out, everything's there that they say there's a note mortgage. You look, okay, the chain of assignments is good, the chain of the allonge is good. So now all I got to do is order my BPO and my title report, right? Go ahead and let them know, saying, great, I'm going to go ahead. We can sign the purchase sale agreement. I'm ordering these documents now. As soon as I have them back, we can move forward. It's all the communication. If you go dark, they're gonna be like, well, what's going on? Is this person actually closed?
Especially if you're in negotiations, and then also if you do it right above the part where you're supposed to wire the funds, because that looks like you're shopping the deal.
It does. It looks like you're trying to broker the deal. If you are brokering the deal, let them know. Say, look, I have somebody I work with. Don't tie something up unless you already have somebody that could potentially be interested in it. It goes against what the platform is, and you get a bad name pretty quickly in this small community of somebody that's a broker joker. There's ways to broker deals and do it right. So do that. And then kind of the last thing is, if you're always looking for win-win situations on how to make a deal close, maybe sometimes there's a payment that's coming in and you're like, okay, well, we gotta change the numbers up a little bit, or, hey, I looked at the payment history at the performing loan, they are paying, but maybe they don't pay on the 1st or by the 5th, but they pay on the 12th every month. Take that into consideration and just say, look, the payment history is not as on time as I would like it. I can still buy the loan, but I need it for here. Obviously mitigate your risk, but try to work out win-win situations, right? Most of the sellers understand maybe there's past due taxes. Say, hey, look, we can do this one of two ways. You can pay off the taxes and we can wait, or I can deduct this amount off the purchase price I'll pay the taxes.
Yeah.
And stack it onto the loan. So there's always ways to work and get a deal done. And for instance, the note, we got to closing, and the collateral verification came through, the report came back, and it turns out that there wasn't the original, there was copies of the note, but the original note wasn't there. Talked to the seller, new seller who originated owner financing. They actually did most of all the stuff right. It's just this thing. They're like, no, I don't know where the note is. I don't know if it got destroyed. We don't keep files long. Once they're done, we get rid of them. He goes, I don't know where it is. It's like, well, you're gonna need that. So instead of the deal canceling, which it very well could have, it could because they don't have the original note. It's not what was represented. The buyer and the seller worked together and said, well, look, there was options galore there. You could go ahead and sign a lost note affidavit.
Right.
You could sign a lost note affidavit and then have the borrower sign an estoppel, or you could say, hey, look, can you sold this to them, you created it, do you have a rapport? Can you go back and say, look, we need you to re-execute the note? That's what they did. Took a little bit longer, the deal's still closed.
Right.
So look for win-wins, look for ways to work with one another. Sometimes if it's self-serviced, you're gonna have to, it's tough. Some of the things that the servicers are asking for people who are self-servicing.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Which is why I always say you should just onboard your loan with a servicer. Just makes life that much easier. If you can't, no big deal. You're self-servicing, just understand that there's gonna be more stuff as a seller that you're gonna have to provide when it's time to do the servicing transfer. And you are on the hook for that. You are legally required as the servicer to provide that information. So just do that. Look for win-wins, look for ways to work with each other.
Another way to work with each other is a lot of times a payment might come in if there's something's happening. A lot of times the seller will award that to the buyer, but then I've seen where buyers are like, can we take this, roll this back, change the purchase sale agreement? It's like, well, you've already sent money to escrow, you got an audit. It's like, so just make an addendum.
You're taking 2 steps back. You can have a collateral side letter that says you're forwarding this amount of money over.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot simpler.
It's much easier. And collateral side letters, they just happen.
Mm-hmm. It's another tip that can keep transactions going, because we have a lot of transactions going, and it's hard. There's comments, like there's hundreds of them, like so a day, and so like if you want to get our attention, use the @Paperstac, and that immediately goes to a different inbox, which is that's like, hey, this person needs this now. So that's a way for you to get our attention. So if you need our attention like right now,
yeah, the @ you can do the @ symbol,
the asterisk, ampersand,
the ampersand, yeah, whatever it is, the @ symbol, the A with a circle around it.
Yeah.
Use that and then type Paperstac right after it, and that will ping us and notify us, and that way we can jump in and help facilitate. A lot of times, we've been doing this so long, we see that it's like, okay, I see, I'll go back, or Brett will go back, we'll read through the transaction, say what's actually going on here? Where is the disconnect? Are they missing something? And it's not uncommon for people to be on the same page but saying 2 different things, but they're really trying to say the same thing. And we can go in there and kind of decipher and say, look, I think this is what you're looking for. Oh yeah, that's it. And we can help out. Or if there's something like, hey, look, we get this a lot. You guys generated the wrong names on the assignment. And it goes kind of back into the vesting profiles and the data that's being generated by the seller and approved by the buyer. We don't type these out. We've got a platform, it does it for us. We use technology, but we're basing it off the information that's provided to us, right? So if the answer is 4 and it's 2 + 3 = 4, it's like, well, that doesn't add up. We're never going to get it right.
No.
Right? It's so we have to have the right information. So be sure that if there is a problem and you need documents regenerated, we can do that very quickly too. Just make sure you get us our attention, and you can even reach out to the Paperstac support.
Yeah, and when you reach out, if there is something wrong with the document, tell us what's wrong with the document. And so there was somebody who reached out even this morning, the documents are wrong. And like, what's wrong with the documents? And like, you know they're wrong, tell me what's wrong with it, because now I said, what's wrong with the documents? And then I don't think I've heard back yet. It's like, well, this problem is going to go on till tomorrow, because it's going to go down the list. And if you need it, it's important.
One more thing, and this kind of goes collectively for buyers and sellers. So a lot of times things you can have something in your mind, you go to type it out and leave a comment, and it doesn't come out necessarily as clear as you'd like, we have AI built in the platform. You can click a button and it'll improve your writing. It'll use AI and say, this is what you're trying to say, and they'll make it a little bit more clear. Use that.
I think also a great feature if English is not your first language.
Yeah.
We have people that are global. And so like, it's some people when maybe English isn't their first language, and that's wonderful. You speak two languages. A lot of Americans don't.
Probably like 20 countries or 25 countries I saw when I was looking at our analytics today. I was like, wow, we're across the globe.
Yeah, and so with that, you can use that rewrite feature. And then lastly, this is just maybe, I don't know if this is a personal preference, but don't write in all caps.
Yeah.
People write in all caps and put explanation points behind every
yelling. It's like, you're yelling. So what are you yelling? Give me the collateral files. And then, I guess tying it all together is just be cordial. Do business the way you would want somebody to do business with you. You catch more flies with honey than vinegar. And if you're trying to work towards a win-win situation, just, everyone's professionals. Most people are professionals on there. Try to be as professional as possible. And you'd be amazed if you're professional as possible, you can work through stuff fairly quickly.
Well, not only that, I've seen it where as long as people are professional, what happens is that a lot of times buyers they like the way that person does their deals. They'll come back and buy it from that same person because it was easy. I've seen that a lot. Like where these people basically are one step away from sending Christmas cards to each other, and they're still buying from each other because they know that I like the way you do business.
Also, look, I'm not saying every deal is going to close. Like you could get to closing and there's just something that shows up and you're like, this is something that we can't fix, or it's going to take a while to get fixed.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? If you've been cordial and professional the whole time, they may say, look, this one's going to take me some time to fix. I got another one. It looks like this one's much cleaner. What if we just roll this one out of closing? Let's move over to this we'll move over to this asset here, and we can start a transaction there. If you're being professional and courteous, there's a huge chance of that happening. I see it happen, right?
Yeah.
But if you're being difficult and stubborn and being a jerk on the platform, people are like, let's roll this one out of closing, and they may have another one that you're never gonna see because they're like, I'm not doing business with that guy. Life's too short, or probably life's too short. So
no, that's very true. Actually, something like that happened to me. It was a really terrible note, and they offered to buy it back, and I took it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that was, granted, he's my friend, so of course he's
great. So, that's it. Those are the things you can do to kind of make a transaction. A, have your offer accepted, and B, but increase the efficiency and the chances a deal is going to close. If you do those things, it really leans towards, just having a pleasant experience on Paperstac.
Yep. And lastly, I will have someone link to another video on how to make acceptable bids using like the 10B AI. We did one like that. So if you want to know, well, that's great, how do I make a good bid? I did my due diligence. I want to hit this yield. We have a video for that as well.
Sure. Yeah. So the links will be in the show notes. So I guess that's it for this edition of the Paperstac Podcast. We are back rolling out. We're on a roll now. You can't have a streak unless there's two, and here we are. So
this is going on 5 years now.
Yeah. Oh wow. As well, we got more coming.
The first one, I remember the first pool. No, we were in COVID, so.
It was at the pool. Didn't we go to the pool and do it sitting at the table under the?
No, it was at the back, on my back porch, or your back porch, because you couldn't leave and I couldn't leave. So we did it on the back porches of our house. And halfway through, my yard guy showed up. I was like, what the hell, man? Literally, like now, I was like, I remember that because I was like,
I think that we started the pool and there was kids screaming and jumping in the pool.
We did that one episode, which was really in the beginning, where we had the kids home on a Friday, and your wife was gone, my wife was gone, so we took them to the pool. So we took them to the pool. And I think we even had beers, so it was like 5 or 6 o'clock.
Hey, but that's good. There's nothing wrong with that.
No. So now now we're in the studio. This will be like the 5th year.
Wow.
So meaning, if you have some topics you want us to cover, we're more than happy for suggestions. Because you do so many, they're like, what else do we got?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be 5 in April.
Wow. That's crazy. All right. Well, That's it for this edition of the Paperstac Podcast. If you have anything you want us to cover, please leave comments. We will get back to you. Love hearing from you guys and happy to open up dialogue in there. Other than that, we will catch you on the next episode.
See you.